Hey everybody, DeRosa here, coming at you with another bolt action battle report. Today's report will cover the second scenario called Dawn Crossing from the Stalingrad campaign book from Warlord Games. Today's scenario reenacts the German crossing of the Don River on August 21st, 1942 on their drive east towards Stalingrad. The victory conditions are simple. The German player must use boats to cross the river and get his troops to the eastern side, and have more troops on the eastern side at the end of the game. The players also get victory points for each unit killed, so you calculate the victory points by units killed and how many units are on the eastern side at the end of the game of turn 6, which you can roll for a turn 7. The Germans start with double the points of the Soviet player, and we decided to give the Germans 1,400 points and the Soviets 700 points. The Germans rolled for their preparatory bombardment and failed to have it come in, so therefore the Russian player, Soviet player, was not allowed to go on to ambush, and therefore it led to the German player having to charge across the river without any pins on my units. The Soviet player can choose to start dug in and hidden, which they did in this case, and the German player places their boats into the river and places their troops somewhere along the forest edge. The board is also played on a 4x4 area that makes the battlefield a little bit smaller. The Germans placed 4 of their boats in one area and were able to get all their troops into the boats on the first round through the use of the messenger, which was a great use of points there. They also had the sniper keeping my head down, the Soviet head down. So with the use of messenger, the German player was able to get all his troops into the boats on the first turn and get them started across the river. I was able to destroy 2 boats outright and immobilize 1 boat. But 1 boat was able to go back and forth. And as you'll see, the German player uses smoke to their advantage. They keep dropping smoke constantly, and we played the rule a little bit incorrectly. We did not have the zero-in rule for the smoke, so basically it would have been a little bit easier for the German player to use their smoke in this case. But anyways, we see the German boats crossing the river. And now once they're across, the Soviet player felt like they had a great advantage because they only had 3 units across with the boats destroyed. So the Soviet player felt that the German player basically was going to get ground down into dust and be able to win this game. But the German player used smoke, like I said, to cover their paths on the riverbank and shoot up the Soviet player on the hillside from his artillery on the backside hills of the German western side. He had 2 Kuba wagons that just drove around. There was a mistake on realizing that he could not drive through that forested area, so no Kuba wagons in this case. But overall, the Germans were successful because they basically just got their men across and dug in like a tick and then went forward. The Soviet player does have some issues that a lot of his troops are inexperienced. And the Germans brought a veteran pioneer, so for a minute the flamethrower was really tearing up my hill. But Soviet player really thought they had it in control until I think it was about turn 4. The Germans used their artillery shell to destroy the Soviet men on the right hillside. There was an inexperienced squad that went down and got half losses with their 6 roll. And then the Soviet player felt that the German player couldn't have luck twice in a row, and he did. And as you can see here, the troops are missing off the hillside. After my regular troops were destroyed off the hillside, it was touch and go from there on out. The German pioneer squad got mortared on, and so they lost their flamethrower, but they still drug on. And they were able to just slowly grind off the Russians off the hillside. And then by the end of the game, we had to sit and count up victory points. And the Soviets had lost a lot of men. And so you'll see at the end here, there's a pile of dead men. And the Germans were able to have a lot of victory points because they had 2 people across the river, at least 2, maybe even 3, I forget. And then also they were able to have many, many kills. Here's all the Russian deaths from the German fascists coming across the river. The Germans made great use of the messenger. Again, I think for this scenario to be successful for the Germans, they need to use the messenger, they need to use smoke, and they need to use the preparatory bombardment to their advantage. In this case, the Germans didn't have preparatory bombardment, and I think it almost was an advantage because I could not be on ambush and shoot the messenger. So there's all that. So again, this campaign in this book is really great. I'm glad that we're getting to play it. We're going to move on to scenario 3 in a minute. Just in case I didn't cover it, the brown felt are balkas that the basically are natural valleyways or canyons that the Russian Soviet players can use for defense. They're sort of like a natural trench. And in this case, my heavy mortar was useful. It hit the pioneer group, but again, it just couldn't do damage after so much volume of fire going across the river and everything. Here again are the casualties for the Soviet Union. A lot of dead men. And there's the victorious Germans cheering their comrade on. And thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you think. In the future, we're going to be having a tutorial on how to make the hills. Alright, thanks for watching again, and we will see you at the tables.